So, this video was not provoked by any specific sort of thing that I've seen recently. It's just something that I thought about a while ago in response to the general discourse on the topic of book blurbs that I've seen. And the general consensus to me seems to be that publishers place too much emphasis on book blurbs as a marketing strategy. And uh, I think this is probably correct. Um, if you ask most people whether or not they care about book blurbs, most people will say that they don't, or that they don't very much. At least that's the impression that I've got. And even if it's not too generally, it seems certainly to be true of fantasy audiences. So just given that, I feel like from a purely marketing standpoint, the emphasis that publishers appear to place on these things is probably unnecessary. That said, I would like to talk about why, to me personally, book blurbs are important. Now, that does not mean that I care about all book blurbs. I see a lot of books with quotes from, literary reviews in random newspapers on the front, or on the back, or on the inside cover. And often that really annoys me. It feels very unnecessary because I happen to not really care what some random guy at the Chicago Sun-Tribune or the San Francisco Chronicle said about this book. That doesn't mean that I'm anti-literary criticism. I'm not. I just don't really care about this. Like, the fact that some random guy at the Chicago Sun-Tribune gave this book 5 stars, that is not going to make me more likely to buy the book. And I don't think it's going to make most people more likely to buy the book. However, there are some blurbs that I do care about. And the blurbs that I do care about generally tend to be blurbs from other authors. If I see a blurb on a book from an author whose books I have read, whose books I like, and I see that this author read this book and they enjoyed it, then that is going to mean something to me. For example, let's say I see a blurb from Brandon Sanderson on a book. Well, of course that means something to me. I know that I like Brandon Sanderson. I know that he has a lot of knowledge of storytelling, and I happen to know that he has very good taste in fantasy literature. But it can be someone who I don't know their taste in books as well. Let's say I see a quote from like Adrian Tchaikovsky on a book. Well, I like Adrian Tchaikovsky as an author. I've read a relatively small number of his works, but I really respect him as an author. He's a very good author. And if I see that he likes some book, then that will make me at least slightly more likely to want to read that book. It seems to me like that's what I would expect. Maybe there are people who are not like that, but personally, it seems like a very natural thing to respect the opinion of an author who you know writes great literature and respect that person's opinion of other literature. Now, I think it's somewhat similar to just this idea that book reviewers, and most people recognize that book reviewers can be useful for people who want to decide which books they should buy and which books they should read. You go and find a reviewer who has tastes similar to you, or even one maybe who has opposite taste from you, right? And if you find a book reviewer, like on YouTube, or it can even be, a literary critic in the Chicago Sun-Tribune. It's always the Chicago Sun-Tribune, that's why I say that. Then you find that person, and if they like a book, then that likely means that you will like the book. Same thing if there's an author who you know is very knowledgeable about storytelling, who is a very good storyteller, who has written great stories, then it seems very intuitive to think that maybe their opinions of other people's stories are also deserving of some consideration or respect. So yeah, this again, I want to emphasize this is not like a humongous, huge thing. It's not as if book blurbs are the main reason that I'm ever, like wanting to read a book, but they do for me mean something.